So you're thinking of moving to Keller, Texas. Maybe you need to think of some pros and some cons of why you might want to actually move to Keller. Well, today we're going to get into that, some of the pros and a couple of the cons of why you may want to consider Keller, Texas for your next move. And we're going to get after that right now. What's up, everybody? I'm Kristen Carpentier with the Living in Dallas team, located right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about what it's like to eat, sleep, live, work, play, buy real estate, or anything in between here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, don't forget to click that subscribe button down below and hit that bell for notifications. That way, every single week when we're dropping new content, you will be the first to know. I'm a licensed realtor here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and my team and I are getting calls, texts, emails, every single day from people just like you wanting to make that move here. So whether you're moving next week, next month, or even next year, please reach out, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or hop on a Zoom call and let us see what we can do to help you make that smooth move here to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. All right, so Keller, Texas. We've talked a little bit about it before, but today we want to dive into some pros and some cons of why maybe you want to consider making that move to the Keller, Texas area. First up, there's a lot of good things going for the city of Keller. If maybe it doesn't matter where you live, or you do have a job over on the west side or down in the Fort Worth area. So Keller might be fantastic, especially if maybe you have a family as well. So let's kind of talk about our first pro. And the first pro of moving over to the Keller area is the multiple price points that you can find within the city limits of Keller, actually. So you can find multi-million-dollar homes, but you can also find your first home, starter home, homes that are much more affordable. If you are looking in the high 200s, low $300,000 range, you're going to get an older home, of course. You are going to get a home that probably needs some renovations. You actually, though, might be able to get a home that has had a few things redone to it and in a great neighborhood. So it's just kind of finding that diamond in the rough sometimes, but also just really trying to locate that best area for you. Also, there are a lot of homes that have land. There's homes that have been established and have been around for a long time. So you might have that type of home that has a lot more character by living in the Keller area. There are some homes that are a little bit more on the new build side. So those homes that are much newer, you might have that opportunity to buy one of those homes and actually not have to worry about a whole lot because it's in a master plan community. But some of these neighborhoods are, you can get land. And if you are dying to have a home that has a little bit more room, that isn't necessarily the new builds like they're doing these days, where you don't really have that much of a yard or that much of spaces to spread out. So another good reason why moving to Keller. But also we had really good friends that moved here to the Dallas area. And when they first moved here, they bought their starter home. Their kids were little, but they moved into the Keller location because of the husband's job. Obviously, a couple years later, he'd had promotions, they could afford a little bit more, and they moved into their second home, but right within the city limits of Keller. And then a couple of years later, their kids had gotten even bigger. Actually, the husband, I think, had gotten a new job, but regardless, they could afford quite a bit more home. And they knew the community that they wanted to live in. They wanted a much bigger home with a pool and some land, and they found the most gorgeous home that was absolutely perfect for their family. So granted, back then it was a little bit older, but it was in the right location that they wanted, and they knew how much they loved Keller. So they went in and made some updates to the home and actually got their dream home in the dream location because they knew the city of Keller really well. So we have seen that multiple times. You get into a city and you really like it. You know what the city has to offer. You know all of the amenities that work right for you or your family, and you just stay there. So the fact that it has multiple price points, that there's multiple neighborhoods that you can live in the city of Keller and move up and find that next house. So just makes it a great pro for us, knowing that, get in there, buy your first home, and move up when you can afford it. So definitely number one on our list. And living in the city of Keller, say you want lots of restaurant options, say you want some shopping options, say you don't like having to drive all over the Dallas area to find what it is that you're looking for. Well, Keller has quite a few of those options, but not to mention, because of its location, it makes it really easy to get to some of those. So Keller has this great little Old Town Keller downtown area, and it's over on the west side of Keller off of the 377. And right there on that strip of highway, they call it a highway, even though it's not a freeway, it's a highway. So it's a nice big road that heads straight north and south, does have stoplights on it, but there are a lot of great restaurants over there. In fact, we have multiple friends who lived in the Keller area. So if we have been over in that area, we've asked them for restaurant recommendations. And a lot of it are these restaurants that are the mom and pop places where the owners live and work locally and actually love being a part of their community. So from barbecue places to Italian restaurants, we have partaken in a few other little great options over in the Keller area for dining. Obviously, when you're heading straight through the middle of Keller, there's so many restaurants, coffee shops, grocery stores, so pretty much anything you can need right there within the city limits of Keller. But also, Keller borders Southlake. And if you know how much we love Southlake, you know how much Southlake has within the city limits over there. It's just a quick drive down the street to Southlake Town Square, to your Costco's, to multiple restaurants and shopping areas. So if you need your Lululemon fix or your Anthropologie fix, or you want to go check out a Tesla showroom, you can do that over in Southlake, which is literally right down the street. And also the Alliance Town Center over off of the 35 West Freeway is really close as well over on the west side. So tons of shopping and different restaurants and multiple, like anything you can think of is going in off of the 35 freeway because of the amount of growth that's happening over there. So definitely a lot of easy access to get there as well. So shopping, dining, especially if you don't have a lot of time, say you're dropping your kids off at soccer practice, or you want to go out and grab a quick bite to eat when practice is over, or, you know, ice cream after a great choir concert. You can find a lot of those options right there within Keller. So another great bonus of why Keller might be great for you. Number 3 on our list for the pros of living in Keller are the schools. And we always refer to niche.com and greatschools.org, of course. So definitely check those out, but the schools are definitely highly rated. But within the city limits of Keller, it is part of the Keller Independent School District, but there is only one public high school right within the city of Keller. So the other high schools in the area are actually over on the Fort Worth side, further west of the city limits of Keller, but they are also part of the Keller Independent School District. But if you want Keller High School, for the most part, almost all the kids go to Keller High School by living within the city limits of Keller. There's a couple of neighborhoods that do feed into Carroll ISD as well as a couple of them into the Northwest ISD as well. But for the most part, the majority of people living within Keller are part of Keller ISD. And also another great thing that we have loved, or that our friends have loved by living in Keller, is the fact that they have the elementary school and an intermediate school and a junior high. So the elementary schools go K through 4, and the intermediate schools are 5th and 6th, and the middle schools are 7th and 8th. So it does give a little bit more of a breakup with the schools over there. And sometimes, in fact, our friends have absolutely loved living over there because they just feel like their kids have had a lot more opportunities. So doesn't necessarily mean it's a great thing, doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but just something to think about if you think that might be a great option for you and your family and school-wise in the city of Keller. Our next pro for living in Keller is the commute. And if you see where its location is, if you want to have access to get down to the Fort Worth area, it's quickly straight down the 377 or down over off of the 35. And maybe sometimes the traffic is backed up. Maybe you don't like sitting in rush hour traffic, or there is a horrible accident. But because of where Keller is located, you have a ton of side roads that can cut you down over and around to get either the Fort Worth area or the Dallas area or even over to the airport. So multiple options with where you live in the city of Keller for commuting. And that's, like I said, another great reason why we have had clients and friends who live over there, realizing that there are different areas and ways to get around town. Because some of these other cities you get into and you have to get from, let's say, Prosper down to Dallas. I mean, it's kind of like a one straight shot. I mean, yeah, you can do neighborhood routes, but for the most part, you have, the main freeways that take you downtown. Whereas in Keller, you can kind of bypass that a little bit more, and that's definitely something that clients and friends have pointed out to us, and realizing that, especially in a snowstorm or what streets have been plowed, it has made a huge difference in how they have actually needed to commute to work. Now, let's talk a little bit about the cons of living in Keller. We don't like to dwell on them a whole lot, but when we're talking about the cons, the first con that we want to discuss is its location. So when you kind of realize where it's at, the city of Keller actually is not bordered by any freeways. Granted, it's bordered by the 377 highway. I mean, I guess we can call it that. I don't know what we're supposed to call it, because it has stoplights. So to me, sometimes it becomes a huge drag because so many cars take that route. But your typical freeways, you do have to drive over to the 35 West Freeway. You do have to drive over to the 114 freeway. So wherever you're at in Keller, you do have to take the side roads, you do have to take the main roads. And if commuting is a big deal that you have to do every single day, it could be kind of a pain. I mean, obviously it could be a pro, but sometimes, if you don't have that straight shot to just go hop on the highway and get into work, it can be a little bit frustrating. I mean, I know it is for us sometimes when my husband has to go to work, but if you don't really have super easy access and you have to cut all around and over and through to get onto the highway, it could be kind of a pain. So I guess it could be a con if you want to look at it that way. Number 2 con for living in Keller is the fact that it's not Southlake. And if you know anything about Southlake and you want to be a part of the Southlake community, part of the Carroll Independent School District, and have super easy access to Southlake, it's not Southlake. Granted, the price points over in Keller are a lot more doable. People tend to talk about it how it's the little Southlake. So it's just not Southlake. Unless you're living in the couple of little neighborhoods that do feed into Carroll Independent School District, you're still in Keller. So while Keller has lots going for it, Keller has lots to do within the city limits of Keller. It's a huge bonus, obviously. But sometimes people are thinking, you know what, dang it, if only I lived in Southlake, because then I'm even closer to all the things that I want. So just something to think about, which I know is kind of funny because you do have that Southlake vibe if you are living in Southlake, and obviously driving over there, you have lots of access to everything that Southlake has to offer. You just don't live in Southlake. I know we've touched on restaurants and the little bit of shopping that they have, but within the city limits of Keller, they are always putting on lots of activities. There are over 300 acres of parks and trails. There's 11 big, huge parks around in the area. There's 26 plus miles worth of hiking and walking and biking trails. And you can go trail running. You can just run through the trees. You can run through the parks. You can run up and down the sidewalks. And there is lots of options of things to do. But the actual city of Keller puts on a whole lot of events as well. Everything from fishing to daddy-daughter dances to community campouts and farmers markets on the weekend. There is always something going on within Keller. Keller really does put on a lot of fun activities that it just makes it another great option for living within the city limits because you have a lot more access to that. They have a great community center called Keller Point, which has outdoor pools and indoor pools, multiple water slides, lazy rivers, splash pads, indoor fitness facilities, and sports league and recreational sports for youth and adults. So definitely something to check out if you want to be heavily involved in the community, if you want lots of things to do. Because for us, we realize, sometimes you don't have as much time on the weekends to participate in these activities. Sometimes you realize you are limited on time, but maybe you do want to just hop out to the farmer's market in the morning or stop by one of these little events for a couple of hours in the afternoon. And Keller has lots of options going for it. So if you have any other questions about some pros or some cons living in Keller, or any other questions about any of these other cities around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, please reach out, call us, text us, shoot us an email, and let us know what we can do to help you make that smooth move here to the Dallas, Texas area that much easier.